Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani, and well, we now know the president's cabinet. All but 2 or 3. No, let me take out Malam El Rufai. He took himself out. But for 2. So we have the cabinet. There have been all sorts of comments, large, but now we know where each person will be. And so let's talk about that. I imagine that our regular viewers indeed do have contributions to make. Okay, also helping me in studio here to get a perspective on what has been done, the president's cabinet, especially as he has now put names to jobs. We got Barrister Wahab Shittu, S.A. He's a constitutional lawyer and university lecturer. Barrister Shittu, thank you very much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Uncle Yori, for inviting me.
You're very welcome, sir. And we got Engineer Debo Onifade. Engineer Onifade is an author. He's also a policy analyst. Thank you very much for coming on, too.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, well, let me... It's been a little late in coming, going by the standards that were set by the administration and the expectation of people. They would have wanted this, state of affairs. They would have wanted to have known it maybe about 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, but we have it now. And all the president's men and women, for that matter, are virtually in place. Let me start with you, Barrister Wahab Shittu. What I've heard so far have been, generally speaking, complimentary about the list. Is that the way you feel too? That yep, we have the, but maybe I get ahead of myself. You know what I think? Let's view a package that we have prepared and that has gone out before on this very subject matter. Then I'll come back into studio. We'll watch that video and we'll go into it. That package now.
President Bola Tinubu have assigned portfolios to ministers designate that will be sworn in on Monday, 21st of August. The Senate confirmed only 45 of the president's nominees out of a list of 48 names sent for screening. These ministers designate already know their job descriptions as President Bola Tinubu gets set to inaugurate the Federal Executive Council. In the list, there was no portfolio for the Ministry of Niger Delta, which technically suggests that the ministry may have been scrapped by the president. Some ministries were also unbundled and new ministries created. The Ministry of Finance was separated from the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, and the new Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy was carved out of the Ministry of Transport. What used to be Ministry of Mines and Steel was split in 2 and is now Ministry of Solid Minerals Development and Ministry of Steel Development. The former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, will be the first person from the south-south region of the country to be given a portfolio as Minister of the FCT. President Tinubu also assigned Wale Edun as the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. A portfolio of the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare was given to Ali Pate. There was also no portfolio for the Senior Minister of Petroleum Resources, which suggests that the president will oversee the ministry that has also been split with the Ministry of Gas Resources. The portfolio of Ministry of Environment and Ecological Management was not assigned, but reserved for Kaduna State, when a replacement will be made for Nasir El-Rufai after the Senate refused to confirm his nomination. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, a brief summary of the situation. We all knew this. Most people who follow current affairs, and in particular governance, and in particular further the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now we know his men. So yes, as I was going to do earlier, let me start with a preliminary question to you. I'll come straight to you with that same question. For you, any surprises in terms of everybody had their own idea? Were you surprised in any way?
Well, I won't say I'm surprised. I would rather say I'm impressed.
Okay.
It's a cabinet of competence, high competence, a cabinet of integration, a cabinet, an all-inclusive cabinet,
Okay.
a talent-driven cabinet. This cabinet, in my view, is rule of law compliant. If you have a persona of Lateef Fagbemi's pedigree as the Attorney General of the Federation, then you must say it is rule of law compliant. It emphasizes geographical balance.
It does.
Yes. It also emphasizes gender balance. Gender balance.
So to that extent,
it also emphasizes religious balance. It's resource control balance too, because you see, you find the South interests properly taken care of, and generally I would say square pegs in square holes.
Okay, then. Coming over to you, Mr. Onifade.
I disagree with the learned silk, actually. I think I'm highly disappointed.
Okay.
And I'll tell you a few. Power, for example, you're not going to succeed there with a finance guy. I think it's purely politics. I think BRF...
You're talking about Mr. Bayo Adelabu.
Adelabu. That's a huge disappointment. And I don't know, I understand the politics.
He has this reputation of a very high competence.
Yeah, but power is a very complex, I mean, engineering is my background, so I understand it well. Fashola was highly suitable, and he couldn't fix it. Fashola has experience with a lot of infrastructure development. He understands it very well. You put in a guy that's going to spend some time to learn, you will lose time. I can tell you clearly he's going to struggle. I also see, and I think there are other ways to compensate him. He's a BAT's man, yes, give him good opportunities, but why put him in something very sensitive as power? That's my view.
Okay.
I also feel like I think much as it's okay to compensate Keyamo, put him in aviation is also risky. That's a very risky, very important part of our economy. I don't think that we're short of experts in that industry. I think if Ashwaju looked at all his people, he would find an expert in that industry that could be there. So I see 2 or 3. I understand budget and planning, purely politics. I don't have anything against it. I don't think the man has a qualification, but that's politics. Defense, again, that's purely politics. But if you look at those 2 guys...
He doesn't even have a military background.
Absolutely not.
I have heard some people say
not at all.
The extent to which it matters remains to be seen.
Defense is about money.
We'll talk about that. Okay, then. Well, there you go. Different strokes for different folks. But, the point has sometimes been made that it's as the head of a ministry, as a minister, it's really coordinating the ministry. You have experts, you have the permanent secretary, and you have just everything at your disposal. This was said in relation to the whole idea of that you must, apart from some highly technical ministries, such as the Ministry of Justice, for instance, know how you must put a lawyer there. You must put a lawyer there. But apart from that, people have had the argument that, there are people of high competency and that can really, swing and adapt to situations. Because, as you said, Barrister Shittu, you said that, all of these people are high-quality people, which I don't think anybody is going to disagree with. But, there are different strokes for different folks.
Yes. I must also respect his perspective. But again, if you look at the way a president thinks and should think, a president of Nigeria should have a broad world vision, which President Tinubu has shown. He must look at the country as a whole and look at all tendencies, all equations, all interests, and try to present a justifiable balance.
Okay.
There's nobody in this cabinet that you will say is lacking in terms of competence, character, and capacity. There's nobody. If you say those who came from the political, they had experience as governor of a state. When you are governors of a state, it's huge capacity. You take input from all elements before arriving at decision-making process. And again, you also have to look at the fact that Nigeria is highly complex and diversified. Diversified in terms of language, in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity. All of this equation must be taken into consideration in constituting a cabinet for Nigeria. And this is what the president has done. Okay. And I'm very, very, very impressed. If you look at all the 6 geopolitical zones,
all of them, yes,
they were adequately represented. You won't say this is a Yoruba cabinet. You will not say this is a Northern cabinet or Southeast cabinet. This is a Nigerian cabinet.
Even though the Southeast commentators from that area have said that we are the only people that didn't get any extra beyond the constitutional provision.
Well,
everybody else had a little jar on top.
But sincerely, this president has impressed me.
Indeed.
With the way he has constituted this cabinet.
Okay.
Yes.
So to look at Dejina Devumai, his choice was great for the Southeast because a very great compensation to the Southeast. We're giving you a super ministry. However, he's highly qualified.
Exactly. I'm so happy you landed there.
He's highly qualified.
Because that's the narration we get. That
exactly.
This guy is fantastic.
He's an engineer.
He's an engineer.
And you put him in works. He did that job well as a governor, as an engineer. That's what I'm saying. There are some ministries that you don't compromise on background. You know, just like Wale is a finance expert. Mm-hmm. In the UK, you can say that, yeah, they use different people. They can put, I think Gordon Brown also, I think, was a historian, and he was equivalent to Mr. Finance before he became Prime Minister. So I get it in some parts of the world. But in Nigeria, it pays when you, for some ministries, I'm not saying all, to use experts. Just like I said, Attorney General has to be, you know,
he has to be
a
professional.
The finance has to be a professional. Mm-hmm. I think aviation should be a professional. Power, let me tell you, power is so delicate. And why I say BRF was an exception was that anybody that wants to be objective knows that Fashola is very good, you know, when it comes to infrastructure. And he has very deep understanding. So he's an exceptional politician. So I think
a technocrat, right?
Yes, he reasons almost not like a lawyer, mm-hmm. you know. So I didn't grudge, but generally, if you don't put a professional in that, EDPA is not telecom. It's very complex. Okay. If you don't put a professional there, you will suffer.
Okay.